Hey, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to Clash of Wills, the Sun Dragon of unknown origin. And we're going to take a look at a team that I got to work last night that is a little bit different than the team that I went with originally. So let's take a look at that team. I discussed on Tuesday Preppers that I was going to kind of take this kind of team, assuming that Ong had Bird Killer. Ong does have Bird Killer, so I went ahead and swapped out Malphasey for Melissa, and then I decided, you know, what would be really useful is to have more than one focus unit, and sure enough, that was. So this ended up working really, really well, even with Ong only at EX1. I assume you saw my polls. They were terrible, but there you go. So Ong, even at EX1, was able to do really, really well, but Hyo was still our main damage. And so because that was kind of straightforward and easy, I wanted a little bit more of a challenge. I wanted to put together another clear. Not to mention, as far as putting videos and clears out, like this clear ended up being very, very similar to Sinzar's clear, and there's nothing wrong with having a clear that's exactly like somebody else's. But in terms of being able to be useful and maybe helping people in like who don't have all the same units, I thought it would be good to put out another video. So I worked on another clear using wind. Now, if you remember on Preppers, I put together a wind team that I thought might be good. But after trial and error, I just couldn't get the chaining to work right. I couldn't get actions to line up the way I wanted to. It was just missing a lot of damage, and so it didn't go very well. So what I decided to do was take the concept of a wind team and blend that with the other team. And so taking some similar units, really high-powered units, but just giving them wind, which kind of feels a little cheaty, but you know what? Sometimes you got to work with what you got. And in my case, I don't got really good wind units. I don't have good wind breakers for Clash of Wills. I don't have good wind amps for Clash of Wills. There's lots of things that I don't have for wind, just by luck of what I've drawn. So I had to kind of work a little bit with what I had and come up with some interesting ways to fit everything on the team. And here you go. So let's go ahead and get into this. I'm going to turn on all the modifiers. There you go. 350, and we'll talk a little bit about the team and the gear. So here's our team. You can see we've got Melissa here for killers and morale fill and support and all kinds of things. We got Hyo and Aya here, who are going to be our main damage. So that's where it feels a little cheesy, right? Because these are fire units, not wind units, but they're on a wind team, right? But they do some really nice things for us. They also fill the focus gauge for us. It's pretty good. So we've also got Kaito here for killers and breaks, and a little bit of damage, not a whole lot, just a little bit, mainly killers and breaks. That's pretty much it. So I would say if you had a better option for a wind breaker, like if you had Avon, for example, and could find some other way to get Fairy Killer on your party, that'd be a good slot in. We also have Malphasey. Malphasey is the one wind unit that we have on this team, and she's going to be providing us with all of our big wind amp for the party, as well as Bird Killer, because we don't have it from anywhere else on this clear. So there you go. Melissa has Dragon, Kaito has Dragon and Fairy. Malphasey's our Bird Killer. We got to work with what we got, and mine happens to be EX2, so that kind of limits the other options that I have for a party. I thought about a bunch of different ways to try and get Bird Killer and some damage and wind support, and Malphasey ended up being the best, so that means I'm limited on who I can take. And then we've got Esther. So Esther is unique here in that she was the first global unit that was like older to get a Vertex ability. Now she has 2 Vertex abilities. She's got her own plus the Clash of Wills one. What you're going to see is that her own can be included in her triple cast, which is really cool, but the generic one cannot. So depending on what actions you need to do, Esther can use her Vertex or the generic one. Honestly, they're both bad for this clear, but we're gonna end up using hers as we go. But what's neat about Esther is that she was just given out for free. So Esther is a free unit effectively because they just gave her to us this week. Now you might not have EX3 Esther, but she's really, really old at this point. And so a lot of players probably do have EX3 Esther, and we're gonna take her as our tank. And she also has, she's filling a role for us. We're gonna use her LB field. Now a lot of people gripe and complain about her LB field because it's both sided. But the nice thing is that it lasts long enough. We're gonna put it up on turn 3. It's gonna be in place for the rest of the fight. And then Malphase is going to wipe out the enemy side with an Imperil field. So we're going to have LB field on our side, Wind Imperil on the enemy side, and that's where we're going to try and work it out. So that's where I was really struggling, was trying to fit in an ally side field for our party. But we've now got that figured out, and we've got Malphase and Esther working together on that. So let's take a look at their gear, and then we will get into the clear itself. So here's Melissa. She's got a peppermint rod. She's wearing the Clash helmet. She's got some like evasion and auto morale fill. She's got some immunities and LB fill and stuff like that. So that's mainly it. And there you go. Her gear does not matter a whole lot. She's wearing her own card for morale fill. But her gear doesn't really matter a ton. She doesn't really take any damage. Yeah, she does Melissa things. Very, very, very normal stuff, right? Hyo, in the base form, is not even wearing 2 weapons. I'm not really sure why I'm even wearing that, but it doesn't really matter. You could put on whatever. But he's got some evasion. He's got some counter gear, you might notice, and we're going to rely on his counters to try and wipe out some of the boss's effects on some turns. So we've got him loaded up with counter gear. If you don't have Looming Wrath, just give him as much counter gear as you can. You can use Chloe's TMR. You can use like the gloves that do counter chance and stuff like that. But we've just got like just kind of basic morale fill type stuff, and then the counter gear. He's got a little evasion too, I think. Yeah, he does have a little bit of evasion in his kit, but it doesn't really matter that much. There you go. As far as his damage form, so his damage form is loaded, and he's our leader, so he's got pretty high attack. He's got all of our Clash stuff. Actually, nobody is wearing the Clash helmet. Let's fix that, shall we? There you go. So now he's got all the Clash gear. He's got killers. He's got killers for Bird, Dragon, and Fairy. He's got LB damage, True Double Hand, all the works, right? And he's got all that stuff. And then he's also got his own, like the special vision card that came on his banner. Most people who pulled for him probably have that card because it's really, really good. Not surprising, right? There you go. Hyo. Here's Aya. So in the base form, Aya is just kind of wearing whatever. This is not important. I don't even know why she's wearing. I think I hit auto. Whatever. You can put on her own gun. It does not matter, right? There you go. Just as long as she's wearing it in the shift form too. And then she's got some evasion. She's got some LB fill and stuff like that. No, she doesn't have LB fill. She just has evasion. Evasion and some resistances. She happens to be wearing Priestess and Priest Vengeance. Doesn't really matter. It just gives us a little morale just in case she gets hit. But there you go. She's wearing Hyo's vision card because my Hyo is EX3, so she's wearing Hyo's vision card. There you go. In her shift form, she's got an uphill battle because it's kind of hard to gear for killers on this one. But she's got Bird, she's got Dragon, she's got Fairy, LB damage, True Double Hand, wearing her own gear, and then some gear that kind of fills out her killer. She's got Indestructible Light because mine's not EX3. Once she's EX3, she doesn't need Indestructible Light. We gain a slot back. Otherwise, we just got all the killers. And like I said, Hyo's vision card. There we go. Kaito, in the base form, he's going to start here with the Empress Celestite Rod, and then just like morale filling type stuff. And then there you go. And then in the shift form, he's got 2 weapons. So he's got that because he's wearing the Richt or the Vilk card to fill morale. And then we've just got a counter orb just in case we're trying to really get counters off on certain turns. So he's wearing one just in case. And then he's wearing his own TMR to unlock his trust abilities, which is what gives him the dispel, and it also gives him the Clash of Wills abilities that are really important for him. Otherwise, he's got some killers. He's got some chain cap. He's not really doing a whole lot of damage. Let's be real about that. But he does have some Bird, some Fairy, and some Dragon. No LB damage because he's not really doing that much. We don't really focus on him. But there you go. And then, like I said, Vilk's vision card. Okay, Malphase in both forms is geared pretty much the same, right? So she's got just like magic and killers, Now you might say, why are you wearing Ong's TMR if we're doing a no Ong clear? The reason I'm doing that is because I'm assuming that maybe you are like me and you pulled for Ong to pity, and you only got one copy, and so your Ong's maybe not fully usable for a team. Well, if you went to pity, that means you got one copy of the TMR, and his vision card too, because you can get his fragments from the shop and get EX1. He doesn't fit on this team, but his gear does. His gear helps Malphasey a lot in terms of gearing up for the killers for Bird, Fairy, Dragon, LB damage, Magic, all the things we need, right? And in our case, she's wearing Rick's vision card, which maybe feels a little cheesy, but you know, Rick is almost a year old at this point. You know, hopefully you've got Rick DX3. If you don't, put on the best Magic or the best card you've got for her, honestly. If you pulled on the step up for Ong, you could even give her the card that was on the step up, which would help her gear the killers really easily, and there you go. That would be nice, but and you know, we're using Rick's vision card. And you notice her magic's kind of low. It's because she doesn't really fit under a leader skill in this party, which is kind of bad. But she's just here for the killers and the win support, so you know, we're not really worrying too much about it. We're gonna let the real damage dealers do their job. All right, Esther. So Esther's wearing paws. She does not have to wear paws. It does not matter that much. Honestly, her gear in this base form does not really matter. We're not using her for damage, but she's just got a bunch of stuff. And then she's got the Mystic Tenacities and the Mood Makers and all the stuff that's going to help her kind of survive and fill her LB as much as possible in the next few turns. She's wearing Jecht's vision card. If you don't have Jecht's vision card, put on the best defensive and bulky vision card that you've got for her. Maybe you've got the one that was on Lilith's banner. It's called Midnight Revelers. Maybe you've got her own card. Maybe you've got Power Cut. You know, just whatever's got a really good bulk. I happen to have a Jecht. You might ask, why are we not bringing Jecht if we have Jecht? Because again, we need Esther for her field. So we're just using what we have in our inventory. In this case, I do happen to have Jecht's card. There you go. Her shift form. I've got her wearing Sylvie's Sword, Shield of Light, Kryla's Veil, all this stuff that's going to help her have resistances, and then just some nice bulk here with the Savior's Celestite Curates of Will, and then we've got like Priest Vengeance, Judge's Oath, lots of resistances. She's got her own TMR, and there you go. Now this gives her over 100 fire, over 100 wind, and then we're short on light. We've got plenty of dark. The light we're going to deal with Melissa's immunity buffs or resistance buffs, and that's going to help us out a lot. And there you go. So there's our team. We're going to go ahead and dig into this fight, and then we will go from there. So I've got a turn chart that I'm going to put up in the comments and in the description of the video, and you can follow along with that. But I'm going to go ahead and get the gear camera out of the way and pull up the action camera, and then let's do it. So where's the gear thing? Oh, this isn't even the gear thing. This is the summon thing. Oh my gosh. I had the wrong thing. All right, here we go. Here's our actions, and let's do it. Okay, so a lot of morale fill. A lot of stuff's going to happen here, and I'm going to let all that finish, and then we'll go. So you start off the fight kind of in a bad place. So if you notice, we get Esther into her shift form for tanking, and look at her resistances and stuff. She's not in a good way. We've already got some imperils in place. We're going to clear that out so that we can resist some damage here. To start us off with Melissa, we're going to use Shared Immunity, Chronic Flow for Morale Fill and LB Fill, and Parasol Shield for mitigations. There we go. That LB is mainly for Esther because Esther needs her LB to use some of her skills. Aya is going to use Barrier, Gene Heal, and Haste. That's going to clear out the imperils. That's going to put up Mirage stacks. That's going to give us HP barriers and stuff like that. So now if we look at Esther, she's in much better shape. She's got over 100 to fire, water, wind, light, dark, everything over 100%. So she's in better shape. We are going to get hit with those imperils again. It's going to be okay. Malphasey is going to go first, and she's going to give us an Eroga. She's going to then use As the Crow Flies and then Rapid Peck twice. Now, As the Crow Flies happens to be our best wind imperil at 135 on this team. So that is really going to be kind of a hindrance for us, but it's going to be okay. Hyo is going to be using Crimson Undermine. I'll master this sword and Refine Stance to get ready for our kind of baby burst on turn 3. And then Kaito is going to shift, And he's going to get rid of the boss's attack and magic buff with Crashing Waves. And then he's going to use Deep and Destabilizing just to kind of put some brakes on the boss and things like that. Before we do, Esther's going to go ahead and use Electromagnetic Shield, Storm Guardian, and Energizing Bunny. Again, with this clear, make sure that Malphasy goes first. So, you know, like because she's going to do the wind. So we're going to do like, you know, Malphasy, Kaito, Hyo, and there you go. Now the boss is sealed, and we're going to see some attacks. Attacks should hit Esther. There's some RNG. You might have other units get hit. It's okay. As long as they don't get hit twice. And we're good. So we're going to see lots of counters and some chaining too, because Hyo is countering and Esther is countering. And that's going to heal us up, get us lots of crystals and stuff so that people can use their LBs if they need to. And we're in pretty good shape. Everybody's pretty much healed up, and anybody who's not is going to get healed on this turn by Aya Brea. Okay, now we are ready to do a little bit of work. So we're going to start with Melissa. Melissa is going to go ahead and triple and give Dragon Killer to Hyo, and then just a random killer to somebody else, and then use Bar Darkja. Very nice. And now we are kind of geared up. On this turn, Aya is going to be using heal 3 times, but we're going to do it after Esther uses her skills, because Esther is going to use some skills that are going to cost her LB gauge. So we're going to do Boundless Stasis, Storm Defender, and Shatterbolt. And those are all going to use some of her LB, and then Aya is going to fill it up a little bit. You know, not too much, but it's going to be there. And then Malphasy is going to use 3 Pecks, Rapid Peck, and then Dreams of Flying to charge up for the next attack. Seems a little silly, but it's going to just give us a little bit of an edge on our next attack. All right, Kaito is going to put up Killer's Torrential Downpour. He doesn't have his good breaks yet. We're going to get those next turn. So we use Deep and Destabilizing to fill morale. And then Hyo is just going to use Breaker Claw, Physical and Magic, you know, just to kind of do a little bit of chaining. And we're going to use like that. Not really focusing on doing too much damage here. You know, and that's okay. We're gonna start doing a little damage next turn. Aya's gonna fill Esther's LB gauge here and top everybody off on health. There you go. We're gonna see some counters here. This damage is pretty safe this turn by comparison. And we'll see a lot of counters off Esther as well, which should fill her limit burst gauge. There you go. Nice. Now, you'll notice if you look up at the top, our morale gauge is actually already past the gauge. So on this turn, we're going to activate Mania mode. We could not fill the gauge at all at this point, and we would totally activate Mania mode. So we're safe. Melissa is going to go ahead and do some things that are going to fill morale, though, and help us do damage. So she's going to give Dragon Killer to Aya. She's going to do Minutes of Might just to give everybody an LB buff, stat buff, things like that. And then she's going to cast Shelga for some mitigations. They're going to come in handy. Or I have found that they come in handy later on down the fight. So there you go. And that's also going to push the morale gauge quite a bit. We are well deep into this territory where we're going to be in Mania mode starting next turn. Esther's going to downshift and use Bunny Bolt Blitz. This is going to put up the LB field, and we don't necessarily want to chain this with the rest of our team because sometimes it causes it to break. The timing's a little, chaining Bolting Strike and Extreme Nova can be a little tricky, so we're just going to get this out of the way. So there you go. And again, notice that LB is on both sides. This is going to be in effect for the rest of the fight. We're going to clear this out later, and now we're ready to do our kind of baby burst. Our baby burst is going to be Kaito doing Deadly Stream, Natural Flux, and Deadly Stream again. Malphasy is going to do 3 Pecks, and then Strong Headwinds. Strong Headwinds is going to give Wind Imbue to the allies and the enemies, and that's going to also let us heal from wind damage on the next turn. So this is where we're going to get some safety from the boss's damage this turn, and that's going to trigger at the end. And that's going to chain nicely, and then Hyo and Aya are also going to chain nicely. Now, you might notice that this burst does about 15, 16, 14% damage. And you might look at that and say, like, that's not very much compared to like other turn 3 bursts that you've seen. It's going to be okay. We're not really going for a one-shot kill on the last turn. We also are missing Amplify Fields. We're missing Bird Killer. We're missing lots of things that would help us do better damage. We're missing an Imperil Field for wind. So there's lots of things that are going to contribute to this doing less damage than you might hope for. But as long as we land in the like 86, 85, 87% range, we're doing pretty good. So we're going to start by sending Kaito and Malphase, and then Hyo and Aya once the chain builds up. There you go. So 86%, not bad. We're going to get hit with the gravity, and then we're going to get healed up by the boss's attacks. Go get a sandwich, why don't you? Now, one thing about this is because the boss is hitting you technically and causing healing, the boss is gaining morale as a result of that. So we do have to contend with that, but thankfully Melissa is good at contending with morale, so it's going to be all right. All right, turn 4. We now have our focus abilities, so we're going to shift Hyo back to the base form and use focus energy. We're putting him in the base form because that's where his counter gear is. Remember, he's got those counters. And the reason we want to counter potentially is that the boss does have these attack and magic buffs, and hopefully we can wipe those out with a counter. We're going to go ahead and have Aya shift down to the base form as well. That's where all of her like defensive gear is, and so she can use focused energy too. Alrighty. And then we're going to chain shift limit burst with Kaito and base limit burst with Malphase here just to do a little bit of damage. Before we do, we're going to have Esther, if she can do it, we're going to use her Magnus, and then don't have quite enough for 2 Shatter Bolts. So we're gonna try and chain first and see if we can't land a couple crystals on the boss or on Esther before we do anything else. So let's go ahead and chain. And to help us out, we'll do an attack and magic buff as well. And we're just gonna chain these guys up and see if we can't get a few crystals. All right, we got a few. Let's see if we have enough. Yeah, we have enough. Okay, that's going to help us push the morale gauge a little bit. And then the last thing we're going to do is we're going to have Melissa do like the dark imbue on the boss to get us through turn 4. So here's Esther. We got Omni cover, we got morale fill, and then we've got Melissa is going to go ahead and do uncontrollable darkness. We're going to use this one first, and then we're going to use a shared immunity just to keep the buffs fresh, and then a Protectica. And we should take no damage this turn. Do the focus shuffle where you go get a sandwich. And this is the problem with bosses that only do physical attacks, is that you can just use, we've got 3 potential units that can do imbues on the party, or imbues on the boss. We've got a wind imbue from Malphase, we've got 2 dark imbues from Melissa, and we've got 2 fire imbues from Hyo. So we've got lots of options for how to imbue the boss and cheese this. But there you go. So the first thing we're going to do is Aya is going to use some of her skills. She's going to use Barrier, Gene Heal, and Haste again, because if you remember, we've got this Imperil problem. So there you go. Very first thing. And then also we're going to have Melissa use her SLB on Aya to reduce the cooldown of her focus ability. That way she can use it again later. And that's also going to heal up the party, put up mitigations, all the good things that Melissa's SLB does. Notice we didn't use her SLB until turn 5. So if she happens to be your only EX1 character, you could do that. You know, we didn't use her SLB until turn 5. Now that we have those two out of the way, we notice that the boss still has attack and magic. So we didn't get a counter off. So what we're going to do is we're going to have Hyo just use his basic attack, Blade Crack, which is going to get rid of that. There you go. That's going to help Esther survive this damage on this turn, because it can be a little dicey with Esther. So there you go. The next thing we're going to do is have Kaito just kind of keep the breaks fresh, the breaks and the killers. So, you know, Downpour, Deadly, Natural Flux, and then Malphase is going to kind of chain with that, doing Eniroga just to kind of keep that imbue fresh for the party, and then some Rapid Pecs. It's going to fill morale. We're going to see if Esther... actually, Esther doesn't need anything, so we're just going to chain those two. There you go. Not really doing any damage. Hey, we actually caught up. We're now at 84%, so we're doing pretty good. Esther is just going to guard. She is going to potentially be taking quite a bit of damage. Now, because we've got mitigations, we've got the boss's buffs removed, we've got 90% breaks on the boss, we should be okay. I've seen this go bad, I've seen this not, but we're still going to guard to get through it. And this is like the last really dangerous turn. Nice. So we got through it. We even got some vengeful morale counters. And Esther's going to fill LBs and heal. Looking good. Looking real good. Okay. Turn 6. Very first thing we're going to do is we're going to use Melissa to imbue the boss with Dark for the next 3 turns. So this is very similar to what you might have seen in like Sinzar's strategy, where she's going to go first and then Malphase is going to replace it with replace ours with Wind. So all-consuming darkness, that's going to go. We've also got Parasol Shield again. We're going to go ahead and put that up. And because we're imbuing the boss with Dark, we're going to give ourselves Dark resistance. There you go. And then Malphase is going to go second, and she is going to... she's going to use Strong Tailwinds. This is our rolling wind amp for the next 3 turns, right? So Strong Tailwinds. And then we're going to peck twice and then use As the Crow for her last action. Now this is going to imperil the boss. I know it's a magic boost, but she's got another one in her kit that we're going to use later. So we're going to use As the Crow. There we go. Now the boss is also sealed, so we're good to go. Aya here, it's hard to... I can't decide what's better. So Focused Instinct gives her a 20x, right? And then it does that for, it gives her, you know, some bonus damage for things. Whereas Awaken Mitochondria, it does a modifier buff too. I feel like this is better. I feel like Awaken Mitochondria is better. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. You might try them both. I on my turn chart have Awaken Mitochondria, so we're gonna use that here. And Hyo, because he's got not much else to do, is going to use Focused Instinct. He's still staying in his base form because he's got the counters. You know, just in case something comes through, we want to counter, it's good. Right, so he's going to use Focused Instinct. All right, Kaito is going to use we're going to keep the killers and stuff fresh. So Killer, Breaks, there you go. And we're good. And Esther is going to use Storm Defender, Boundless Stasis, and Energizing Bunny. Yeah. I also like to, on this turn, go ahead and use the defense and spirit buff. It's a force of habit. We should be okay, though, because with the Dark Imbue and the Dark Absorb, we should be fine for the next 3 turns. Do the Focus Shuffle. Okay, great. Looking good. So turn 7, we're going to start setting up for our big boy burst. And we're going to do a lot of stuff. So Melissa is going to use shared immunity. Actually, she's going to use Dragon Killer first on Hyo, and then shared immunity. And then, you know, you could do a Shelga, you could do a Kuraga, kind of whatever. I'm going to use Shelga because that's what's on my chart. There you go. Hyo is going to use Crimson Undermine. I'll master this sword, Refined Stance for the Fist Imperil and the LB buff and all the things that he does, and just like the breaks and stuff, you know, whatever. I know we got 90 breaks. I just, it's on the chart. Just do what's on the chart. It's also filling morale. There you go. Aya is going to use Focused Energy. That's going to just give us the last little shred that we're missing here. 3 Focus Gems. We're ready to go. Esther is going to, depending on how much LB gauge she has, we're gonna see what she can do. Malphasey is going to shift. In this order, very important to do it in this order. We're going to put up the Imperil Field with Murderous Mob, Skilled Scavengers for some mod buffs, Avian Rancor is Bird Killer, Fleet Winged Flyer for a 150 amp and a magic boost. So very important to do that in that order. There you go. Notice now we have LB damage on our side and wind resistance down on the enemy side. We're looking good. Kaito is just going to once again put up the killers and the brakes. There you go. And then Esther, depending on how much LB gauge you have, she's going to use... Oh, here's where I was going to say. So she's got Vertex Shield and Static Screen. Notice that Static Screen is included in her triple cast and Vertex Shield is not. So that's because Static Screen is her like the one that she comes with. So we're going to go ahead and use that one. Static Screen and 2 Shatterbolts to chain with Kaito. So we're just going to send them together and they will do a little bit of chaining. You know, it's not really needed, but it's there. And this is going to push the boss out of Mania mode, put us into chance time, and we're going to be ready to go on turn 8. So here goes. Cool. Turn 8. Turn 7. Well, here's the damage, first of all. So, you know, we're going to, you know, Esther's going to cover, but we're still absorbing dark, so it's really okay. Okay, that's where we're hopefully going to get a blade crack. Do we get a blade crack? No blade crack. Okay, so because those attacks hit everybody, technically Hyo can counter off of it. We didn't get one, so it's okay. We're gonna go just like what my turn chart says, and we're not going to do. We're gonna act like we did not get a blade crack because we did not get a blade crack. Notice the boss is in bonus time now. We're ready to go. So first things first, Melissa is going to use Seconds of Support on Hyo. We're going to use Dragon Killer on Aya because she's our second DPS, and then Minutes of Might for everybody else. So now everybody's got LB buffs and killers, big killers on Aya, and we're in pretty good shape. Hyo is going to be using the Shifted Limit Burst of Justice, Crimson Fist. Aya is going to use I'll End This. Kaito, we'll talk about Kaito in a second. Malphasey is also going to use her Shifted Limit Burst, Corvid Crush. So, because we didn't get a blade crack. We need to get rid of the boss's buffs and mitigations. So mitigations are here and whatever. This is also, getting rid of this is also going to get rid of that dark imbue. But because we're getting rid of the mitigation, the attack buff and magic buff, and we've got mitigations and stuff, our damage and our covering should be okay. We should be fine here. But we do need to get rid of it. So Kaito is going to use Crashing Waves, yay, and then Deadly and Natural, just to chain Bolting Strike. And to chain with him, because we need to, Esther is going to be here, and she's going to use just Quantum Storm, just to do an action, right? It's an action that doesn't cost her limit burst gauge. There you go, and 2 Shatter Bolts. So she's going to chain with Kaito. And then Malphase and Hyo and Aya are all going to chain once the chain builds a little bit. Yeah, it's a little tricky, but that's how it's going to go. So we're going to send Esther and Hyo, Esther and Kaito. The order is very important. Kaito and then Esther to get rid of all the mitigations and stuff, and then Malphase, Aya, and Hyo after that. I also, just because I'm paranoid, on turn 8 like to use all my skills. There you go. Restore everything, defense and spirit, resounding will, all this stuff, right? So get rid of everything bad. And now we're ready to go. I just want to check one thing really fast. Be right back. Okay, we're ready to go. I just wanted to check and make sure that my everything's all set up. So again, Kaito, Esther, Malphase, Aya, Hyo, and we're gonna start with Kaito and Esther. Boss is melting. Oh, we got it on turn 8. We rolled a good variance. Holy cow. 12.6. Very nice. I have not seen that happen before. Okay, well, the turn chart goes all the way to turn 10. So if you roll bad variance, you could use what's on the turn chart to get you through the next 2 turns. Because now that bonus time has been increased to a total of 3 turns, you can go all the way to turn 10 with this clear. So yeah, there you go. We've got some damage here. So we've got Hyo and Aya doing big damage, Malphase doing a little bit of damage, Kaito and Esther doing a little bit of damage, mainly focusing on Hyo and Aya Brea, unsurprisingly. Yeah, we got everything. So we got a perfect score. And I don't really want anything because I've already got all the VIP coins. So cool. That's it. So like I said, I really wish that clear could be recorded here, but instead of this one. But it only shows the first one you did. So, but yeah, so there you go. 8 turn clear. And we are rank 1, and that would have done it. So hopefully that is useful to you. Take a look at the turn chart for turns 9 and 10. If for some reason you cannot get the boss on turn 8, if you get a bad variance roll or something like that. I've seen that roll land on 15% health. I've seen that roll land on like 2% health, and then you've got to gonna farm out the rest of the thing. But you've got 2 turns to go, and with all the mitigations that we had set up for Esther, you're good to go. Basically, the next 2 turn you would just kind of set up for another burst on turn 10 with SLBs and LB fills and stuff like that. So cool. Hopefully that's useful to you. You can go out there and get a rank 1 without Ong. You can argue all you want whether or not this is easy. Sometimes putting together a team that includes everything you want, like party side fields and breaks and imperils and stuff, is difficult. Is this as flashy as the water clear? No. We did about half the damage, if not, I did about half the damage that my water clear did on that big boy burst. Honestly, it's not as cool, but having the new unit makes a big difference. So hopefully that's useful to you. If you've got any ideas or any questions about who you might be able to swap out or change, let me know. Check out the turn chart in the comments in the description, and we will see you next week. Happy Saturday, everybody.